The Seattle Storm are sending Jewell Loyd to the Las Vegas Aces in a blockbuster three-team trade that moves Kelsey Plum to the LA Sparks. That's according to ESPN. As part of the deal, Seattle receives the second pick in this year's WNBA draft from LA in exchange for the Storm's number 9 pick, while the Aces also receive the 13th pick, a second-round selection from the Sparks.
As Kelsey Plum discovered, what happens in Vegas does not always stay there. She is leaving the flash of the Strip for the glamour of Los Angeles. On the bright side, she'll be free of A'ja Wilson's large personality. Talk about a new beginning in Tinseltown.
Loyd is a 6-time All-Star and 2-time champ with Seattle, while Plum is a 3-time All-Star with 2 titles of her own out in Las Vegas.
A startling twist. Star guard Kelsey Plum has been traded to the LA Sparks in a 3-team deal that has sent shockwaves across the WNBA. But this is more than just a story about one guy on the move. It could be the start of the end for the Las Vegas Aces. Are we seeing the end of a dynasty? And who is ultimately to blame for this unraveling? Buckle up, it's time to dive in.
Loyd to Vegas, Plum to LA. Just how does this maybe impact the landscape of the Western Conference? And I kind of want to also throw in the league as a whole, getting some of these big pieces now in new places.
Consider this scenario. You're calmly looking through your phone, enjoying a quiet moment when, bam, the news hits you like a lightning-fast break. Kelsey Plum, the sharpshooting sensation, has officially left the Las Vegas Aces. But wait, there's more. She's been traded to the Los Angeles Sparks in a stunning 3-team deal that has sparked excitement and conversation around the WNBA.
We have been hearing for a little while the reporting of Annie Costabile at the Chicago Sun-Times, as well as Roberta Rodriguez with Beta Basket. We've been hearing that Jewell Loyd, especially after the investigation with the Seattle Storm, was likely on the move. And then, of course, Kelsey Plum was cored by the Aces, though she was considered, and still is technically considered, one of the top draws in free agency as an unrestricted free agent.
Let's break it down, because this isn't your typical trade. It's the kind of blockbuster move that shakes up the league. Here's how everything went down. Kelsey Plum joins the Sparks, Jewell Loyd joins the Aces, and the Storm acquires the Sparks' coveted number 2 draft pick. It's like a high-stakes game of musical chairs, but instead of kids, it's WNBA superstars. Swapping seats.
You have 2 names like that, 2 Olympians, just won gold in Paris. They are going to, as you said, draw a lot of assets. And when you see a 3-team trade, obviously this was about as many teams as possible, but especially the Seattle Storm and the Las Vegas Aces being able to get value.
You're probably scratching your head right now, wondering why the Aces would release a player like Kelsey Plum. That is the million-dollar question that is generating conversations all around. Remember the reports about Plum and A'ja Wilson being at odds? Well, it appears that the murmurs may have been true, because where there is smoke, there is frequently fire.
Age reminds me a lot of you. Like, you say it's not really about me. And she knows how her privilege has gotten her to that point. And also, like, she's good at basketball, obviously. But, like, she understands her privilege. It's like what pushes her over the top, in a sense. It reminds me a lot of you. And I mean, that's a combo.
But here's where things get heated. Kelsey Plum isn't just making a quick stop in Los Angeles. According to reports, she is looking forward to a long-term contract with the Sparks, maybe lasting beyond the 2025 season. It's more than simply a team change. It's a risky move that could alter her entire career path.
I think what we have seen in the WNBA, especially with the last collective bargaining agreement that the league is still under, though negotiating right now, we've seen a lot more player autonomy and movement, and that makes things really exciting.
And what about the Aces? They are not simply exchanging one star for another, they are revamping their championship formula. Jewell Loyd joins their already formidable lineup as another dynamic player. But here's the big question. Is she a good fit? Loyd joins a club that has won consecutive championships in 2022 and 2023. The real test will be if her style complements A'ja Wilson and the rest of the Aces' star-studded roster. Will this move bolster their dynasty or disturb their rhythm? Time will tell.
I go back to the Aces just very briefly, because you talked about how they were trying to get that 3-peat, but instead now maybe seeking to compete for their 3rd championship in the last 4 years, and certainly looking to build that core around A'ja Wilson. But just what does Jewell Loyd kind of add to now what the Aces are trying to build here?
Some commentators question the Aces' decision. Sure, Plum and Loyd have similar skill sets, But questions have been raised about Lloyd's recent shooting consistency. Is this an example of the Aces being overly confident in their ability to shape any player into their system? Could this gamble be the secret to their continued dominance? Skeptics are paying careful attention.
Jewell Loyd, again, has a very similar skill set in a lot of ways to Kelsey Plum. I think of players that can play that number 2 guard in particular, maybe have the ball in their hands a time or two. But with Jewell Loyd, her execution from the corner is lethal. And with Jewell Loyd, we saw that even at the Olympics, there was some controversy there with how she was utilized, or in fact, how she was not utilized by head coach Cheryl Reeve for Team USA. And then again, there were a few things going on with Seattle, and we saw a little bit of her productivity and specifically her efficiency dip.
Let us not overlook the sparks in all of this. They're not just inheriting an unhappy star, they're getting a highly driven one. Kelsey Plum is seeking for a fresh start, and Los Angeles could be the perfect place for her to relaunch her career. Could this be the game-changing move that puts the Sparks back in postseason contention after a poor season? The pieces are in place, and the stakes cannot be higher.
A lot of people thought they could be in contention to over and usurp the Houston Comets for that 4-peat. Of course, that didn't come to pass. The New York Liberty are champions, let's not forget. But I think it's just a little bit of a different culture change. And I think with that, it means that Kelsey Plum, if she does go to LA, will be utilized for some of her experience and her leadership.
Okay, let's go into the domino impact of this trade. You thought it was only about Plum, Loyd, and a draft pick? Think again. This transaction is about to change the whole WNBA landscape. Buckle up, major shockwaves are on their way, and they will undoubtedly reverberate across the league, upending everything from team plans to player dynamics. This is only the beginning.
She will be paired alongside last year's number 2 overall pick, Cameron Brink, who was off to a fantastic rookie year before that season-ending injury. I mean, that's a 3-time All-Star. We talk about 2 titles, but just looking at her joining that, what kind of expertise, what kind of knowledge, what can that really do for, I don't want to use this, but what kind of spark can that be for the Sparks out there in LA? I had to use it.
Picture this. The Los Angeles Sparks, who finished last season in last place, have recently risen to prominence, and they have Kelsey Plum on their side, a sharpshooter with a point to prove. This isn't just any player. They have someone who has been waiting to take the lead, and in LA, she now has the opportunity to shine as the primary star. The Sparks are prepared to make some noise.
I think you're right. With Cameron Brink coming back, hopefully very healthy from injury, as you mentioned, she was a dynamic force for that LA team. I think it's the overall organization and some of the things, again, that this is a legacy franchise. The Los Angeles Sparks played in the first ever WNBA basketball game. And again, we've seen other teams just build a little bit more infrastructure around their players.
Here's where it becomes even more intriguing. The Sparks didn't simply get a star, they gave up their golden ticket. That second-round pick may have been their chance to land a generational talent like Olivia Miles or Paige Beckers, players with the ability to overhaul a club overnight. Instead, the Sparks are relying on the present. They're betting on Kelsey Plum's celebrity status, expecting she'll be the key to their quick success. It's a risky venture that might pay off handsomely or backfire.
Heard a time or two the phrase hybrid rebuilds come into play. They have a new coach. They are going to have now, as has been reported, a new player in Kelsey Plum. So I think the leadership from Plum, and I think maybe the reset for Kelsey Plum, being in a new environment, maybe taking on a different role, because she's coming from the Las Vegas Aces.
Now, let's concentrate on the Aces. On paper, swapping Plum for Loyd appears to be a reasonable bargain. But if you dig a bit further, you'll notice some fractures. Loyd is coming off a season in which her shooting did not meet her usual standards. Her shot quality dipped to 36%, but Plum's was a strong 43%. This isn't just a little dip, it's a canyon-sized gap. The Aces are taking a chance, hoping Loyd can regain her previous form.
She was on the Olympic team, of course, has been with the Aces for some years. She just had her jersey retired by her alma mater in Washington. So there's a lot of great things. And I do want to say, I was in Paris for the Summer Olympics, and we got to speak to Kelsey Plum. She had a few things off the court going on, and she talked about just leaning into her faith and being so blessed, and just kind of almost laughing at all of the things that were going on outside of basketball.
But that's not all. The Aces could have just altered with their secret sauce. Kelsey Plum was more than just a scorer. She was a playmaker who helped everyone around her succeed. They now have a pure scorer in Jewell Loyd, but who will set up those easy buckets? The Aces' offensive synergy could be tested, especially with Aja Wilson demanding the ball almost every time down the court. And then there's the Seattle Storm, sitting pretty with the second overall choice, smirking like if they just won the lottery. They might have. This might mark the beginning of a new era in Seattle. Imagine Paige Bueckers wearing a Storm jersey. That is the type of player to build a franchise on.
Like the Las Vegas Aces, who they have a few moving pieces and moving parts. You can't always keep a championship team together.
The truth is that this move does more than just reshape 3 teams. It also shifts the WNBA's whole power dynamic. The Sparks have progressed from underdogs to dark horse contenders, while the Storm are preparing for the future. What about the Aces? Well, they may have just paved the way for the rest of the league to catch up. Don't forget about other tapu. Competitors like the Indiana Fever, New York Liberty, and Minnesota Lynx. The 2025 season has just become a lot more exciting. But hold on, there's more. The true losers in all of this could be the Aces and their so-called superstar, Aja Wilson. Consider this. They have just lost Kelsey Plum, a younger, more efficient player. To be honest, Plum was the engine that kept the Aces offense running efficiently. Without her, Wilson will have to work much harder to get those easy buckets.
I don't know for sure, but I wonder if also this is maybe just a really important, even personal reset for Kelsey Plum. And again, there have been reports that the same could be in play here for Jewell Loyd.
Yeah, that puts things certainly in a different perspective, at least for her and her career.
And here's a weird thought. What if this is only the start of the Aces' demise? We've already seen significant players leave. Alicia Clark and Tiffany Hayes are free agents, and Kate Martin is moving to San Francisco. The once mighty Aces are beginning to appear less like a dynasty and more like a sinking ship. Remember the phrase, "What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas." No, not when it comes to Aces drama. This squad was on top of the world. They had everything: championships, superstars, and an MVP. What about now? We feel like we're watching a high-stakes poker game with everyone folding.
We have to get better. We have to really take a sharp look at ourselves, look ourselves in the mirror, see our shortcomings, and then, you got to make the moves necessary, whatever that means, to put the best product that we possibly can. It's not going to be the same group probably next year. It just won't. And I'm sad about that because I really like that group. They were a pain in my ass, but I was a pain in their ass too.
Let's talk about the Aces offseason. Things are looking a little messy. First, GM Natalie Williams is shown the door. But here's where it gets interesting. Months later, her seat remains vacant. It's like they're playing musical chairs, but the music has stopped and no one is taking a seat, and it does not stop there. What about the coaching staff? They're also hopping ship. 2 top assistants have decided to depart for what they describe as bigger opportunities. Natalie Noss is on her way to the sparkling new Golden State Valkyries, which makes sense, but then there's Tyler Marsh, who left the glitz of Vegas for the mayhem of the Chicago Sky. And Angel Reese? Something smells fishy in Vegas.
What is going on in their locker room? Like, this Aces team is falling apart. This is not a coach that I would want to play for.
The Aces appear to be breaking apart. This is not a circumstance in which any athlete wants to be involved. And now, for the cherry on top of this catastrophic Sunday, Kelsey Plum has gone. Are you beginning to see a pattern? Becky Hammon certainly is, and she's not happy about it. In fact, she's been dropping some truth bombs that have sent shockwaves throughout the organization. Now, let's look at the Aces' performance last season. Let's just say it was as reliable as a roulette wheel. Plum, Jackie Young, and Chelsea Gray combined for just 28 points in a crucial Game 4 loss to New York. And guess what? That did not sit well with Aja Wilson.